So today, after weeks of being smeared by Democrats, called evil, accused of rape and gang rape, being compared to Bill Cosby, after weeks of vile death threats against his family, after weeks of being demonized all over television and in most major newspapers, well, today, Brett Kavanaugh finally had a chance under oath to clear his good name. Dramatic testimony today, powerful testimony. Watch this.
This confirmation process has become a national disgrace. The Constitution gives the Senate an important role in the confirmation process, but you have replaced advice and consent with search and destroy. Since my nomination in July, there's been a frenzy on the left to come up with something, anything, to block my confirmation. Shortly after I was nominated, the Democratic Senate leader said he would, quote, oppose me with everything he's got. A Democratic senator on this committee publicly referred to me as evil. Given comments like those, is it any surprise that people have been willing to do anything, to make any physical threat against my family, to send any violent email to my wife, to make any kind of allegation against me and against my friends, to blow me up and take me down? You sowed the wind. For decades to come, I fear that the whole country will reap the whirlwind.
Judge Kavanaugh also had this to say about the process and his family and what they have been forced to endure, again, with zero corroboration, no presumption of innocence, no due process. Watch this.
The behavior of several of the Democratic members of this committee at my hearing a few weeks ago was an embarrassment. But at least it was just a good old-fashioned attempt at borking. Those efforts didn't work. When I did at least okay enough at the hearings that it looked like I might actually get confirmed, a new tactic was needed. Some of you were lying in wait and had it ready. This first allegation was held in secret for weeks by a Democratic member of this committee and by staff. It would be needed only if you couldn't take me out on the merits. When it was needed, this allegation was unleashed and publicly deployed over Dr. Ford's wishes. This whole two-week effort has been a calculated and orchestrated political hit, fueled with apparent pent-up anger about President Trump and the 2016 election, fear that has been unfairly stoked about my judicial record, revenge on behalf of the Clintons, and millions of dollars in money from outside left-wing opposition groups. This is a circus. The consequences will extend long past my nomination. The consequences will be with us for decades.
And after those powerful remarks, Judge Kavanaugh addressed his accuser, Professor Christine Ford. Take a look at this emotional moment from earlier today.
I have never done this to her or to anyone. That's not who I am. It is not who I was. I am innocent of this charge. I intend no ill will to Dr. Ford and her family. The other night, Ashley and my daughter Liza said their prayers, and little Liza, all 10 years old, said to Ashley, we should pray for the woman. It's a lot of wisdom from a 10-year-old.
We were there on my radio show. A lot of people around me, guys, girls, they all were crying. 10-year-old little girl, powerful moment. And she's absolutely right. But let's take a moment to review the charges from Professor Ford. Her allegations were made in July to a Democratic member of Congress. She claims, well, those claims come back 36 years, nearly 4 decades. And I've been saying she deserved to be heard from the very beginning. These allegations are serious. They were taken seriously by the president, by the Senate, and by everybody except, and I'll explain. But she doesn't remember a date, day of the week, location, how she got to or from the party where the alleged crime took place. All 4 witnesses that Professor Ford listed to corroborate her claims, they all deny what she is alleging. All 4 in sworn statements under penalty of felony. Let me repeat. All witnesses have given sworn statements under the penalty of felony. That means you can go to jail. To the Democrats, what that means is this has been investigated. The people that were there have already spoken. And it includes Professor Ford's friend. Her name, Leland Kaiser. Her attorney released a statement. It reads, quote, simply put, Ms. Kaiser does not know Mr. Kavanaugh and has no recollection of ever being at a party or gathering where he was present with or without Dr. Ford. Now, today, the Senate's independent prosecutor asked her about this irrefutable fact. Take a look.
Are you aware that they say that they have no memory or knowledge of such a party?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any particular motives to ascribe to Leland?
I guess we could take those one at a time. Leland has significant health challenges, and I'm happy that she's focusing on herself and getting the health treatment that she needs. And she let me know that she needed her lawyer to take care of this for her, and she texted me right afterward with an apology and good wishes and et cetera. So I'm glad that she's taking care of herself.
Now, today's testimony from Professor Ford actually raised more questions than it answered, including this moment about Ford's recent polygraph test. Let's take a look at this.
Why was that location chosen for the polygraph?
I had left my grandmother's funeral at Fort Lincoln Cemetery that day and was on tight schedule to get a plane to Manchester, New Hampshire. So he was willing to come to me, which was appreciated.
So he administered a polygraph on the day that you attended your grandmother's funeral?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Or it might have been the next day. I spent the night in the hotel, so I don't remember the exact day.
Did you pay for the polygraph yourself?
I don't think so.
Okay. Do you know who did pay for the polygraph?
Not yet, no.
I believe you said it hasn't been paid for yet. Is that correct?
Let me put an end to this mystery. Her lawyers have paid for her polygraph.
As is routine.
As is routine.
Is it your understanding that someone else is going to assist you with some of these fees, including the cost for your polygraph?
I'm aware that there's been several GoFundMe sites that I haven't had a chance to figure out how to manage those because I've never had one.
Now, just to recap, Professor Ford doesn't remember when the incident in question happened. She doesn't remember where the incident happened. She's given inconsistent answers about this important detail. She doesn't remember exactly who attended the party in question. She's given inconsistent answers about this detail. She doesn't remember how she got to the alleged party. She doesn't remember how she got back from the party. And not one person corroborates her story. We also learned today that she doesn't remember if she handed the Washington Post therapy notes just a few weeks ago. Now, just minutes ago, the Wall Street Journal editorial board fully endorsed the confirmation of Judge Brett Kavanaugh. And also moments ago, we learned that Senator Mitch McConnell announced the Judicial Committee, the Senate Judicial Committee, will, in fact, Judiciary Committee, in the morning, they are moving forward, he said. And moments ago, Senator Bob Corker of Tennessee announced on Twitter that he will vote yes on Brett Kavanaugh. But none of this matters, seemingly, to people on the other side. It shouldn't be about Republican or Democrat, liberal, conservative at all. They wanted and stated from the beginning they wanted to ruin Judge Brett Kavanaugh, and over unsubstantiated, uncorroborated claims from nearly 4 decades ago, for the left at this point, it's not about sexual misconduct. Otherwise, they'd be talking about Keith Ellison. They would have had more harsh statements about Bill Clinton. This has not been about protecting victims or finding the truth even. To them, from day one, Chuck Schumer leading the way, this has all been political. It is a sad day for the country, what we had to witness today. The worst part of this is Senator Dianne Feinstein knew about these claims since July. She knew about these charges when she actually met with Kavanaugh in private. She knew about these claims when she questioned him during his public hearing several weeks ago. And when she met privately with Brett Kavanaugh, she had already been recommending attorneys to Professor Ford. Now, only after Brett Kavanaugh's nomination looked imminent did Dianne Feinstein and Democrats announce Ford's allegations. This has been a disgraceful display of politics at its worst. Is re-election more important than another person's life here? Did anybody hear the pain in Brett Kavanaugh's voice today? And by the way, I would argue, too, Professor Ford, as Susan Collins has said, nobody's been served well here. She wished to remain anonymous. The story got leaked. Her name got leaked. And without any corroboration or evidence, then you had politicians smearing Kavanaugh again and again on national TV. This is but a small sampling. Take a look.
The Senate shouldn't simply rely on hearing two conflicting accounts and decide, well, we're okay with not knowing, we're okay with the fact that we might be putting someone who committed attempted rape on the Supreme Court of the United States.
I believe her. Listen, first of all, anybody who comes forward at this point to be prepared to testify in the United States Senate against someone who's being nominated to one of the most powerful positions in the United States government, that takes an extraordinary amount of courage.
Not only do women like Dr. Ford, who bravely comes forward, need to be heard, but they need to be believed. They need to be believed. I just want to say to the men of this country, just shut up and step up. Do the right thing.
Let me just say right at the outset, I believe Dr. Ford. I believe the survivor here. There's every reason to believe her. She has come forward courageously and bravely.
I believe her. I stand with her. And
do you hope she shows up on Monday? Do you hope that she testifies?
I don't think she should be bullied into this scenario where it's a he said, she said. It's a sham hearing. And I don't think she should participate in it.
I believe Professor Ford. I think she's credible. And I think when the investigation is finished and when she testifies and Judge Kavanaugh testifies, I think a majority of senators will find her credible.
And the smears continued during the hearing, and today Democrats ramping up their favorite new talking point. We must have an FBI investigation. Now, this is, of course, all a political stall tactic. They want to delay. They hope we get to the midterms. They hope they win, and they hope they stop Donald Trump from fulfilling a campaign promise and a constitutional obligation. Watch the echo chamber, and on the other side of this, I'm going to explain why this is phony, and they know it. Take a look.
The behavior of several of the Democratic members of this committee at my hearing a few weeks ago was an embarrassment. But at least it was just a good old-fashioned attempt at borking. Those efforts didn't work. When I did at least okay enough at the hearings that it looked like I might actually get confirmed, a new tactic was needed. Some of you were lying in wait and had it ready. This first allegation was held in secret for weeks by a Democratic member of this committee and by staff. It would be needed only if you couldn't take me out on the merits. When it was needed, this allegation was unleashed and publicly deployed over Dr. Ford's wishes. This whole 2-week effort has been a calculated and orchestrated political hit, fueled with apparent pent-up anger about President Trump and the 2016 election, fear that has been unfairly stoked about my judicial record, revenge on behalf of the Clintons, and millions of dollars in money from outside left-wing opposition groups. This is a circus. The consequences will extend long past my nomination. The consequences will be with us for decades.
Now, an FBI investigation does not make conclusions. They all knew this. It would interview everybody that has already been interviewed, and a report would then be issued. That's it. The Democrats know it. In 1991, then Senator Joe Biden suggested that these FBI investigations are actually useless. His words, and they all agreed back then. Take a look.
The next person that refers to an FBI report as being worth anything obviously doesn't understand anything. FBI explicitly does not, in this or any other case, reach a conclusion. Period. Period. So, Judge, there's no reason why you should know this. The reason why we cannot rely on the FBI report, you wouldn't like it if we did, because it is inconclusive. They say he said, she said, and they said. Period. So when people wave an FBI report before you, understand, they do not reach conclusions. They do not make, as my friend points out more adequate, they do not make recommendations.
Remember, all witnesses, all in this case, gave sworn statements under the threat of felony. Democrats have turned this important process into a political sham. They have turned advice and consent into destroy, malign. They can't care whose life is destroyed in this process. Obviously, they don't. Did they not see what went on today to Judge Kavanaugh, the impact on him, his family, the women making these allegations as they withheld them for all those weeks? They just want Kavanaugh stopped at all costs. Today, no one seems to put this in better perspective than Senator Lindsey Graham. What was a powerful moment when he took on the Democrats. Take a look.
What you want to do is destroy this guy's life, hold this seat open, and hope you win in 2020. You've said that, not me. You've got nothing to apologize for. When you see Sotomayor and Kagan, tell them that Lindsey said hello, because I voted for them. I would never do to them what you've done to this guy. This is the most unethical sham since I've been in politics. I cannot imagine what you and your family have gone through. Boy, y'all want power. God, I hope you never get it. I hope the American people can see through this sham, that you knew about it and you held it. You had no intention of protecting Dr. Ford. None. She's as much of a victim as you are. God, I hate to say it because these have been my friends. But let me tell you, when it comes to this, you're looking for a fair process. You came to the wrong town at the wrong time, my friend. To my Republican colleagues, if you vote no, you're legitimizing the most despicable thing I have seen in my time in politics.
Senator Graham will join us in studio in just a moment. And after those passionate remarks, Senator Orrin Hatch called these proceedings worse than any other confirmation proceedings in history, including those of Judge Bork and Judge Thomas. Let's watch this.
The circus atmosphere that has been created since my Democratic colleagues first leaked Dr. Ford's allegations to the media 2 weeks ago, after sitting on them for 6 weeks, I might add, has brought us the worst in our politics. It certainly has brought us no closer to the truth. Anonymous letters with no name and no return address are now being treated as national news. Porn star lawyers with facially implausible claims are driving the news cycle. I hate to say this, but this is worse than Robert Bork, and I didn't think it could get any worse than that. This is worse than Clarence Thomas. I didn't think it could get any worse than that. This is a national disgrace, the way you're being treated.
This is sadly the Democratic playbook. I warn people every single 2 years, every 4 years on my radio show and right here on this show. Republicans, be prepared to be demonized, racist, sexist, misogynist, xenophobic, homophobic, Islamophobic. You want dirty air, water, you want to kill children, and there'll be some Paul Ryan lookalike throwing your grandmother over the cliff because Republicans want Granny to die. And it's the same now with Supreme Court nominees, same predictable behavior. We've now come to expect this. This has to change. This country deserves better. The people of this country deserve better. These people in D.C., in this swamp, they are supposed to serve us, you, we, the people. It's not about a Republican, Democrat, liberal, or conservative here. This is pure human decency that was in play today. They destroyed this man and his family. They bludgeoned him, all for the sake of power. There was zero presumption of innocence here or due process. Now the Democratic Party, every 4 years, every time we have a nomination of the Supreme Court, we know what to expect. The party of slander, besmirchment, smears, character assassination, the party of no due process, no presumption of innocence, the party that rushes to judgment. Look at all the high-profile cases, rush to judgment. Duke lacrosse case, the Cambridge police acted stupidly, Ferguson, Missouri, Baltimore, Maryland, Richard Jewell, Trayvon Martin. Is this the party that's going to decide the fate of this country? Because in 40 days, that same party wants you to go out and vote for them. Look at your screen. You see these Republican senators? These are the people who will decide the fate of the Kavanaugh nomination. Right there. Those are the people that will decide if we still have due process in this country, if these principles exist in this country, if we still have laws predicated on the Constitution. Let them know how to vote. Call them. Tell them what's at stake. Let them know what you felt today watching these hearings. And if you're in one of these states where Donald Trump won, West Virginia, Joe Manchin, North Dakota, Heidi Heitkamp, Indiana, Joe Donnelly, your Democratic senator's up for re-election. If they don't confirm Judge Kavanaugh and they go along with the smear campaign, if they go ahead and do that, are you going to vote for them? Now, there is a lot in the next few days, weeks, and months that we're going to decide, and we have a lot to get to in the course of this program tonight. I just want to say what we're looking at right here tonight, what you're looking at, you get to hold them accountable for their decisions. Never has a Supreme Court nomination been more important. This country is at a tipping point. Inalienable rights of Americans, they're going to continue, or we are going to never be able to go back. Our Constitution, all these core principles hang in the balance tonight. And we have one party that has thrown all of this to the wind and adopted smear, slander, personal politics of destruction. Unless good senators find a backbone and stick up for these core fundamental rights of every human being, like we've been talking about, due process, justice, law, order. Democrats take down Judge Kavanaugh, a man with an impeccable record of service, 40-year track record. They can take down anybody, any conservative, any politician, for any reason, on any allegation, with zero proof, ever. The Senate cannot let this happen. They cannot reward this behavior.